All right, fellas. Normally we catch up on our lives, but I got something from last Friday night that was kind of comical. I could slide it in the prep spotlight, but I want to kind of throw it out on the table here. And by the way, we're recording this on Monday, October 7th. It's the first anniversary of that whole terror attack in Israel. So hope everything stays cool out there. But my story is I'm at the Owasso game Friday night. Now I went to the concession stand to get a program, and I'm walking back towards the press box at Wilman Field, and I run into Brian Reed, and he puts his arm around my shoulder. He's an Owasso sports booster, works for the Sports Booster Club, and he puts his arm around me. He says, "Hey, Ted," he says, "I got a little surprise for you over here in the coaches' room underneath the stands." I said, "Oh yeah, what's that?" He says, "I found that trophy you guys have been talking about."
Oh yeah. Okay, where was it? Where was it?
No, hold on. It was April Fool's. He did not find it.
That's even better. That's even better.
He got me hook, line, and sinker, man.
You just got Jared and I.
I did. Well, there you go. But I thought, yeah, okay, cool. No, but then we were talking a little bit about it, and he's an Owasso guy, all right? And he says, "Yeah, that Jared, he was dogging on us, but he might be right. We don't know where it's at necessarily, but he could be onto it."
So funny you mentioned that. So I was just talking to my dad about this.
Yeah.
So basically, the only historical record we have of this trophy is your game broadcast from that year. There's no. Has anybody commented on our post said, "Hey, I remember that trophy"?
No.
I remember.
Do you think I made it up? You think I made it up?
I don't know. It's just how is it just disappeared, and how did nobody raise any alarms about it? That's what's mind-boggling about
it. I don't know if you said it when we talked about it. Did you ever physically ever see it? I know you talked about it on the broadcast, but did you ever physically see the trophy?
No, I did not see the trophy. I can't remember. If I did, I don't remember it. It's been a long time.
I mean, part of me is almost thinking you call it the Castle Cup, like you're almost referring to this made up, not made up trophy, but like a fake. The Carolina Cavaliers playing Owasso Trojans in the Castle Cup, not necessarily there was a trophy, or is it explicitly stated there was a trophy?
Here, I'll just repeat it again. This was in the 1997 broadcast. I said that. So there was no Castle Cup. I didn't even cross my mind at that time. Right. So anyway, it was
that's a funny joke. I was going to message you, I don't know, last week or someone say, "Hey, have you heard anything about that trophy?" Because we shared that on Facebook and
I know
our social media, and it got shared a bunch and it has a ton of views. So I'm surprised no one shot us a message and said, "Hey, I saw that trophy at one point at my buddy's house," or
I thought
in some locker room in Owasso or something like that. Did you ever look into going up into that hidden attic room at Corunna High School where I told you all those trophies are?
I have not. Jared talked to his dad. What did your dad say? Maybe he'd go up there and take a look.
Without saying the words, I think he might have thought that you maybe didn't quite remember things right. He didn't say that, but that was me interpreting the conversation. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm on your side. I think it did exist. I agree with you. He's wiping his hands of it. Corunna had nothing to do with it in his book, which I don't know if that's true or not. But
yeah, I mean, I appreciate you being on my side, because why on earth would I ever make that up in a broadcast? There's no way.
Add a little bit of juice to the broadcast. That you were doing a great job as a broadcaster, bringing a little extra excitement to it. That's what.
That does happen. I will say that.
You know what's going to happen is someone's going to buy a plot of land somewhere in between Owasso, Corunna, something like that. Start tearing up the ground to put a house in, and that thing is going to be unearthed, and they're going to be like, "What is this?"
Well,
it's a trophy.
Possibly.
Did he lead you to an empty room, open up the door, and you were thinking you're about to
No, it wasn't that bad. No, it got to the point when he knew he had me, and I'm laughing, of course. And then we both said, "There's got to be one. We got to get one." So whether it's the original one, but if another one, we come up with another one, it's going to have all the games, all the scores. Yeah. And I think I'm going to be a ringleader on this and try to make it happen. First things first, have to have both athletic directors agree to it. Then after that, we'll see what happens.
Gotta have it agree to it. And I don't know if it has to go as far as signing some sort of contract or something.
No.
But there needs to be an agreement of listen, we're going to exchange this thing. It's not going to become a another trophy that disappears for some reason.
Yeah, you got to bring it to the game, whether it's in a box or whatever, like the little brown jug, and have some fun with it too. But it's a thing to play for and a little thing for pride. I think it's all good, but we'll see what happens. We'll see if the original comes up. So again, if you're just new to this podcast, we're trying to find the Owasso Corunna football traveling trophy that has disappeared somewhere along the line. By the way,
and all we know for sure is that it existed in '97.
In my head, at least.
After that, there's no recollection of this trophy.
Right. Well, this is episode 330 of the 3 Point Podcast. By the way, I guess I have to go back and listen to the second broadcast, the third broadcast, and see if there was mention of a trophy, right?
Right.
You do. Honestly, that's what a good detective would do, would find out what's the year that we lost it. And then you go back to the previous year, what team won it. Now we can split it to one side of town.
Oh, don't think I won't be on a little bit of a mission here, boys. You know that.
Then you got it. Then you look up the rosters from that, and you start digging on Facebook, or you look up emails, and you start reaching out.
Who are the troublemakers that could have pilfered this thing, right?
Yep.
Well, we are presented by the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. For those unexpected moments when injuries strike, visit their orthopedic walk-in clinic Monday through Fridays, 8 to noon. By the way, they just had their Go Green, Go Blue run last Saturday, and our good friend Ben Jacobs took first place honors overall. So good job by Ben. Also want to thank our starting lineup of partners. They include ALS of Michigan, AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, and the Shiawassee County Fair. And I think I'm going to give them a live read here, boys, because they have their big event coming up this coming weekend, October 11th through the 13th at the county fairgrounds. Their first ever trunk and treat camp out. All kinds of Halloween-related activities, including a bonfire, s'more roast, hay rides for children, bounce house, adult hayride, costume contest. They have camping. It's just so much more out there than just, a week in August. They got all kinds of things going on. I think they just had a big craft show. They had a big horse show, and they've got things going on all the time at the fairgrounds. But the big trunk and treat coming up, really take your kids out there. Highly recommend it.
Especially if the weather's good. And then, like we said, Michigan State on a bye this Saturday.
Perfect.
So perfect time to head out to the fairgrounds.
All right. Well, right after this short pause, we'll have the prep spotlight, and we'll have our interview with Ovid-Elsie's head coach, Travis Long. He has the Marauders unbeaten, heading into a matchup with the unbeaten Chesaning Indians. All right. Starting off the prep spotlight, we have one of the real fine head coaches in our area talking about football, and he has a fairly big game coming up this Friday night at Mark O'Donnell Field in Elsie. It's the Ovid-Elsie head coach, Travis Long. First of all, Travis, thanks for joining us again. We appreciate it, and I know we're butting into your preparation for that big game. Why don't you set the stage for us from the Ovid-Elsie perspective on what we're going to see there Friday night?
Well, first off, thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys. I know you guys do a great job covering the area and high school sports. It's, it's a great thing for kids and families and stuff like that. So, to answer your question, we've been having this game kind of marked on our calendar, since last season, and boys have been working hard. We had a quick little install practice today, and then tomorrow we're going to get after it. So what you're going to see is, what you usually get from Ovid-Elsie. We like to run the ball and take our shots when we have it, and play really good defense. So same old.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big one too, because you made it to the semis last year, and you guys basically since 2005, Ovid-Elsie's been making the playoffs for the most part every season. It seems like when you look back on the history, there's only a couple seasons in there where Ovid-Elsie didn't make the playoffs. And not that this game Friday against Chesaning, not that it will define this season, but do you kind of see this as a measuring stick? You made a run to the semis last year, and you probably have those same goals this year. But are you going to see how you stack up against Chesaning and use this as like a measuring stick on what you guys can work on or build on for the rest of this season?
Yeah, I guess going into this season, we looked at the second half of our season got a lot tougher, starting with Durand and then Montrose, and Bertrand gave us all they had, and we knew that Chesaning, Lothrop, and even Standish are going to be big games. So we kind of knew going in that these were going to be our kind of measuring stick games. And each week, we've been preaching to the kids that, competition is going to get a little bit tougher this week. So we got to be prepared. So got a good group of young men that have bought into our system, our culture. And, last year was a pleasant surprise of going that far, making it to semis. And this year they've set some lofty goals. So, and to be honest with you, they've earned everything. We got guys that come in the off season, guys that have bought in the summer, the weight room, they've done the little things, things that, even us coaches, during the spring and summer, they'd be out there on the field working on their own because we had limited, guys we could work with. So it's been fun the last 2-3 years of, Marauder football, and we hope to carry that torch on.
You mentioned kind of keeping your team focused, week by week. I was doing a little bit of reading. I saw that you guys pull some inspiration. Your big motto for this year is actually from Lou Holtz. What is that motto, and what is the message you try to kind of instill in your team week by week?
Yeah, so our motto this year is WIN, which stands for what's important now. And I try to give the guys something to, carry with them throughout the season. So early on in the spring, we have a big team meeting over Google Meet, and we give them a theme for the year. And this year is that Lou Holtz, what's important now. So it kind of prioritizes your time,
right?
And I kind of use it. Hey, we can use this in the classroom. You can use this at home. If you got to do the dishes, make your bed, mow the lawn, what's important now. We got to keep our parents happy and do the right thing. So when they're out in Joe Public and they have a decision to make, it's, what's important now. You got other people that are watching. You got, you're representing your family, you're representing your team, your school. So I think the guys have bought into that, and it's looked pretty good so far.
That's really good to hear that. And most of our really good coaches around have kind of the same philosophy. And, a coach or a teacher, they're kind of a surrogate parent. So you're teaching the right things, and that's really good to hear. But I want to talk a little bit about, teams that go far, teams that are successful have great seniors and senior leadership. And, I'll start with the guy we talk about every single week, Trace Tokar. But then some of your other seniors, talk a little bit about them and, how much they mean to this team and the success moving forward.
Yeah. So obviously, everybody starts with Trice. He's that dynamic player that not only makes plays on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, he's our best tackler. He's a safety that'll come up and support the run game, but also make plays in the pass game. So he's just a dynamic kid. Never had a competitor like him that will take every inch of what he can do and apply that into winning that ball game. But as far as what's that?
I was going to say ultimate coachable player, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. They're all coachable. This senior group, I take a look at our offensive lineman with Jake Bowen, who was an all-stater last year at tackle. He's played a huge role, not only, offensively, but defensively well. He's been our best defensive tackle. So he's making plays that he didn't a year ago. And Joe Bancroft has played center. Dawson Taylor didn't play last year because of a back injury, and he's played guard. We got Javen Belil, who's just a solid linebacker who just makes plays. I think he's at almost 80 tackles already. And then there's Clayton Frucci, who is just a Mr. Consistent running the ball. He's good in the run game, but he also we spread him out a little bit and get him into the pass game. So, there's other seniors that, Ben Wilds, who's stepped up as a senior. It's always good to see as a coach how a junior who might not quite get it just shines as a senior. He
figures it out.
The light switch is turned on, and so we got a few of those that have
awesome.
been pretty good. So
It's always got to be a feeling like you can see the potential in some of those, maybe even down freshman, sophomore, but yeah, the juniors. And then it gets to a point where it's on them. You can coach them up all you want and all that kind of stuff. But at some point, like you said, the light switch has to go on with them. And when it does, that has to be a very rewarding thing for a coach. I talked about a measuring stick with Chesaning.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously, we do cover mostly mid-Michigan. And when we talk about the prep spotlight, how cool is it for you as a coach? And how does it maybe help your guys push themselves when there are those other teams in the area that are really good? I mean, right now there's a good stretch of football in mid-Michigan. Durand, obviously Corona. I know you don't play all these teams all the time, but Corona's been good. Durand, you guys, of course, New Lothrop, obviously they're trying to keep their playoff streak alive this season. There's just a collection of some really good football teams in mid-Michigan. Does that help you guys kind of push yourself? Because if you want to win your conference, if you want to, make a little run in the playoffs, you've got to beat these teams.
Absolutely. You keep an eye on each school as you go the season and take a look at their win-loss record, and you get tons of film on them from scouting and stuff like that. So each week, and the kids play all these kids in other sports too,
Right.
Basketball and baseball, and so there's a rivalry in just about every sport. So it's kind of fun. I like basketball season, going to games and seeing these guys compete against other kids, and it's a great time. It's a great time to be in mid-Michigan football for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Especially this upcoming Friday night. I mean, it's going to be an all-time classic game. Both sides have probably been looking forward to this one really before the season even got underway. How do you kind of balance as a head coach, getting your team extra excited for this big-time game, but also trying to convince them, hey, it's just another week? And what was maybe your opening message to your team? I know it's just been Monday, to your team this week heading into this Friday's big-time game.
Well, I guess, every week I kind of read the kids a passage, and one of the lines in the passage, it's called A Football Player. One of the lines is simple game with simple rules. And, we try to, with our theme win, what's important now is tomorrow's practice. So we're focused completely on that. And I think the guys have done a great job of buying into that.
Got one final question for you, Coach, before we let you go. We've been talking about the big matchup coming up this week. We had Coach Walter on earlier this season, and he opened some eyes up all year long. But last week with that 50-0 win over Montrose, that opened eyes up all around the state. But what do you have to do? What do the Marauders have to do, or to pick up the win? I guess is what I would say.
Yeah, I think we have to just play really good defense like we have all year. They got a dynamic group of athletes on the offensive side of the ball, with their tailback and their quarterback is pretty heady. So we got to play sound fundamental defense, and then we got to be able to run the ball effectively. So our offensive line has to really step up, and our backs have to carry the load. And then, when we have opportunities in the pass game, we gotta make our play. We got to make that play and let it roll and see how it goes.
Well, it's going to be a good one. That's for sure. And, better get there early, folks, because there's not going to be much room. It's going to be lined up around O'Donnell Field there. It's going to be a tremendous atmosphere for a high school football game. We want to wish you the best of luck, Coach, and we'll check in with you down the road. Good luck.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you. And go Tigers.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, go Tigers.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcast, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
All right, guys, good stuff there by head coach Travis Long of the undefeated Ovid-Elsie Marauders. We talked about the undefeated Chesaning Indians traveling over to Elsie. They downed Montrose 50-0. Brady Sager, 4 TDs, quarterback Matt Volk, 9 of 11, 150 yards, 3 touchdown passes. It's an impressive Chesaning team. Ovid-Elsie is going to have their hands full. They're fortunate they have the home field advantage, so it should be a battle for sure. As I mentioned, Ovid-Elsie comes in undefeated. They down Birch Run 30-14. Our guy, Trace Tokar, 2 touchdowns. Mike Bancroft, a 39-yard interception return for a touchdown. In some of the other games, you'll like this one, Matt. Perry over Dansville, 38-6 in their homecoming. Sophomore quarterback Tiger Whitback passed for 205 yards and a couple of touchdowns. And your nephew Brady, homecoming king. How about that?
Nice.
Homecoming king. I know he was excited, and his date won the homecoming queen as well.
Holy cow.
So,
that's gold all the way.
It's a big deal right there. So yeah, they picked up their first win too. So all around, I mean, homecoming weekend, if you can get your win and then have a great time at the dance, it's a win.
It's great. Yeah, and
it's awesome. They're riding high right now, and that's like you talk about an all American, weekend, homecoming king, win the big game, go to the dance the next day. I mean, I'm jealous of them. That was awesome.
Those are great times in life, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I barely can remember those days. Also, a few other scores. Morris over Weberville, 58-0. The O's improved to 5-1. An 8-man is Wyatt Valentine, who's having an all-state type of year. 201 yards and 5 touchdowns in that one. Game of the week last week on the Castle turned out to be the game of the week. Brandon over Owasso, 54-47, 101 points scored in a 7-point contest. Hoyt Patrick, I'm going to tell you guys right now, watching this kid play, he's a stud. I mean, he can play some small college football, maybe possibly even a Division II as a safety or something. He is the real deal. He had 217 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground. His brother Liam, the quarterback, 162 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. The game, though, was, I don't know what to say about it, but there was over 15 penalties in that game that really slowed things down, but still a good performance. And then our Corunna Cavaliers took it on the chin to the tough Goodrich Martian team, 42-7. The loss ends the Cavs' 14-game regular season win streak. Corunna's only score came on an 11-yard pass from Caden Cowdery to Dane Zeman. 0-6 Clio up next for the Cavaliers. But you did mention, Jared, briefly that maybe that score was a little bit deceptive.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, Goodrich, I would say, is a tough test for Corunna for any team, really, outside of maybe Frankenmuth, who the Cavaliers might end up seeing in the playoffs. But, it was a 7-0 ball game. A couple plays near the end of that first half really swung it, made it 14-0 at halftime, and then Corunna had a costly interception in their own territory that kind of made it all she wrote. But no, I don't think that's a 42-7 game if you play it 10 times. Maybe Goodrich wins the majority of them, but I think it was a little bit closer than what the score read.
All right. Well, that was the Prep Spotlight presented by the Jacobs Insurance Agency, local, independent, and trusted. And we appreciate their sponsorship. Well, we'll talk a little sports, little college and pro sports right after this message. All right, guys, I don't know if we have to spend a ton of time on college football after what we saw Saturday night, but Washington took care of Michigan 27-17. The Wolverines fall to 4-2. I think we did see some promise with their third quarterback they've tried, Jack Tuttle. I mean, he looked pretty good, but he also had a couple of key mistakes that really cost him in that game. Thoughts?
I think at minimum, he gives this team going forward the best chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that amounts to 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, I guess we'll see. But I think at minimum, we saw that he gives this team the best chance to win because he can make some plays with his legs. Yes, he did throw that interception, but he hit some pretty good throws that made it seem like the offense could open up a little bit. Again, we're not saying all of a sudden this dude is, Dylan Gabriel out there at Oregon, or, he's not CJ Stroud at Ohio State. He's not putting up those kind of numbers, but I think at minimum, that's what we saw. So hopefully this bye week, they can start to kind of tailor the offense around him, get him some actual reps with the first team offense. And then we'll see. Otherwise, this team it's kind of the same old we've been saying all year. It just doesn't seem like there's much life, much energy. I've been saying about the leadership thing. It was cool to see Donovan Edwards apparently got them all together on the sidelines there at one point, basically trying to rally the troops type of thing. So it's cool to see him stepping up as a leader. But this thing, it's either going to fall apart quick or we're going to see a cool little run here. And maybe they pull an upset over Oregon or something like that.
I can read on Jared's face where he's going. Go ahead.
What do you? Yeah, I guess real quick, I'm more disappointed in myself. And I say that because all offseason, I was like, I'm really worried about this team. Worried about the coaching hires. We've talked about Wink Martindale. We got DUIs flying, guys getting fired. It just felt like an offseason from hell. And then me just being an idiot, I start drinking the Maze Kool-Aid about a week before the season. I'm like, this team might win 10 games, might win 11 games. They're going to ride this defense. And it's just, they're lost. I agree when the Tuttle shuttle took off, it was like, wow, where's this guy been? Maybe this squad's got something. But then Washington ends the game on 13 unanswered points. The defense, I went and looked up some stats because it's the eye test tells you they're not very good. Right. But then you look at the Pro Football Focus and the draft boards, and you're like, wow, they're talented. But my God, I mean, they're ranked 48th in total defense. I mean, 336 yards allowed per game. The Wink Martindale defense, that's been the biggest disappointment of this entire year. We talk about it all the time, the exotic blitzes that lead to big time breakdowns. The fact that, I think we all agree the way to win in college football is to have these sort of bend, don't break styles where a team's got to move the ball 10, 12 play drives on you to score. And it just seems like they've lost their way. They've lost what made Michigan's defense so good. Yes, they were always talented, but it was the coaching. It was the fact they didn't miss assignments. They kept everything in front of them. It's just they've lost it this year. And what's disappointing to me more so from a coaching perspective, what did you guys think? It almost felt like they weren't willing to do the Mullings strategy, as I call it, from Jump Street this game.
Right.
They come out, they had 3 runs, 3 passes. On a 3rd and 4 at midfield, where I'm like, this is 2-down territory when it's 0-0. Right. They come out gunning with Orgy, incomplete. Now they punt. Now they give up a score. Now they're down 7-0. And once Michigan falls behind, it's like it's a totally different team.
Right.
They can't run the ball like they want to. They can't sit on the rock. They can't rely on their defense. I just felt like they really came out with 2 game plans. One, the shuttle game plan, or the Tuttle game plan, and this half-baked Orgy, we're going to throw it more game plan. Right. I would have liked to have seen another Mullings attempt. I think they could have Mullings them, man. It's just like they didn't give themselves a chance to do that.
Fair points on that, but that falls on coaching, the coaching calls and that. But, when you also look back, and football is a funny game, sometimes it is a matter of a couple things that happen in a game just completely turn it around. The turnovers, like we said, especially that fumble. And really, I don't know if there's been a ton of talk about it when Donovan Edwards slipped down and he had a hole big enough to take it to the house and he fell. That killed him.
Yeah. Because, I'm trying to remember, did they still had the lead at that point or was it tied? Either way, it would have felt like it put the game away. He slips, they end up punting, whole game flips. And it seems like previous years, the last 3 years when we've been on this little bit of a run, those are things that went in Michigan's favor. We were getting the breaks, we were getting the turning the ball over. We had kickers. I mean, we actually have a really good kicker this year too. So that's a bright spot. But this year, it just seems like everything's going against us. And whether that's karma for the last 3 years and all the trash that Michigan fans have been talking or what, but it doesn't seem like this team has it. You always hear about the it factor. Last year, we have JJ McCarthy, we have Blake Corum, Mike Sanderstill and all these dudes on defense. This team just doesn't seem to have it. And, hopefully, like I said, hopefully the bye week, they can figure something out. But I feel like our only hope is do not lose at home to Michigan State, because that will be
it's a possible reality.
Which is
I said that. Remember we talked about that after the Texas game. I was like, they could lose that game, and you guys were still on the fence. Like, no, like I think we're all kind of in the same boat. Like, we need to win that game, no matter what happens.
Our big hope is that Michigan State turns it over more than Michigan. So that's like the big hope. Is all right.
I got one general question for you guys now that we're 6 games into the college football season with the whole change of scenery, right? I mean, with the NIL and everything else. I mean, you got Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. You got Indiana undefeated. Do you think we're heading into a territory that actually might be kind of fun to watch when we get some of these other schools that are contending instead of the same ones every year?
I love it. I honestly, I was going to actually have this written down. This has been my favorite 6 weeks of a college football season that I've had so far. And I've said that I feel like the last 5 years in a row, but I really feel it right now. This new playoff, it's opened the ball game for everybody. The NIL, yes, it has its downfalls, but it's also leveled the playing field a little bit,
Right.
where a team like Vanderbilt can beat a freaking Alabama.
Right.
I love it. The Power Five or the Group of Five, excuse me, that's getting an exception in the playoff. I think that's a fun storyline. The Oregons playing the Michigans, the Oregons playing the Ohio States. Us going to Washington and playing. Everything about it, I freaking love. What do you guys think? I'm 100%. This is a victory. Everything about it is great. I can't believe we haven't been doing this last 20 years. That's where I'm at. Are you guys close to that or no?
I'm close to that because it is cool seeing parity. You know, we don't want the playoff to always be Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Michigan. You don't want it to be that. But it makes you think about March Madness with college basketball. You know, we always talk about, we love the Cinderella stories. We love the upsets. That's always awesome. We love seeing those crazy buzzer beaters. But if the Final Four is like 4 teams that no one cares about, that's also no fun either. You want to see Duke in there. You want to see Michigan State. You want to see North Carolina, Kansas. So if it starts getting to the point where the Final Four in football is like Indiana and like Fresno State somehow sneaks in and stuff like that, that's where it's going to be like, I mean, we're going to watch, but it's like, okay, that's no fun. I want to see Ohio State versus Georgia. I want to see, of course, Michigan versus Alabama in the Rose Bowl, so I'll just be curious if that happens. I don't think it's going to necessarily turn into that, but right now, yeah, it's fun. That Vanderbilt game was amazing.
It is fun. And I think, once they get a handle on how they handle the pain of the players, I think it's going to work out pretty well and maybe will make more of an even playing field. And I don't think we ever have to worry about the blue bloods not being involved some way, shape, or form. I think what we'll end up seeing is a surprise team. One surprise team makes it to the Final Four, maybe.
Right, because before, when it was only 4 teams,
right,
for the most part, not never, but for the most part, a team like Indiana had no shot to make the playoff. I mean, even if they had their dream season, there's no way they were going to like run the table and make it. So now, yes, this gives teams, like you said, Jared, the Group of 5 exception, this gives a team like an Indiana, they've got a pretty favorable schedule, so they might actually be able to make it in.
Now, how exciting was it to see Alabama lose, though, to Vandy, and see the Vandy students take the goalpost 2 miles downtown Broadway and thrown in the river?
Here's what sucks about gambling, man. I of course, I lose every game I place. It feels like I bet on Alabama to win that game. So you feel like an asshole because I'm like rooting for Bama in this all-time like upset. So I didn't get to enjoy it the same way that you guys probably did, just from afar, watching it, loving it. But it is awesome. That's what makes college football the best. You get reminded of it, and it's funny every time we talk about these quote unquote apple picking weekends. Stuff like this happens, and it's mind blowing how it happens when you think of all the money Bama's getting played, how good Bama is, how much. But there's just something magical about the sport of football, and especially college football, where anybody can win any given game.
Yeah,
and that's why the whole team playoff is going to be fun to see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you just brought up another negative of gambling. It's you lose a little of the enjoyment of the big upsets, man. I mean, I had no team in the race. I was pulling for that upset all the way and just happened to flip it over just in time to see the tail end of it. It was awesome. Before we wrap up college football and talk a little Tigers, we got to talk a little Michigan State. I mean, no big surprise. It kind of was under the radar. I was doing a high school game Friday night. Jared, you were at a game.
Yep.
Oregon, no problem with Michigan State, but I still think the Spartans are headed in the right direction. Even though they lost 31-10, we knew they weren't going to be very good this year, but if they can somehow knock on 6 wins, that's a success for John Smith.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing is Childs, their quarterback. You would like to, there's a ton of potential. It's not like he's garbage. I'm not going to, throw out any takes like that. But at some point, he's got to clean up the turnovers, and he's got to show some sort of improvement. So, like we mentioned earlier, they're on a bye. Then they've got Iowa, who's always pretty good. And then they've got Michigan, and then they've got Indiana. Right. So there's 3 games right there against pretty good opponents in the Big Ten, especially. That this is your chance to prove it. Like you said, if you want to get to 6 wins, if you want to make a bowl, here you go. You got to do that. And if they can go into Michigan and beat Michigan and Sharon Moore, I mean, that would just That would send Michigan fans into a
what's scary.
tailspin.
Jared's worst nightmare.
It is, man. If you're at Michigan State, the big win you had this week wasn't even a game. It was a college game day segment where Nick Saban went gaga over Aiden Childs, basically. State fans are clipping that for the next year, as long as he's their starting quarterback. I know he basically said what you said, Matt. He's got to take care of the turnovers. Obviously has big potential, can do it with his legs. So if you got Nick Saban saying that about your potential quarterback, who's only 18 years old, by the way, you're doing pretty good in a rebuilding here.
Yeah, didn't Saban also say that Vanderbilt's the easiest place to play or something like that?
Yeah. And they played it as soon as the game was over.
Absolutely. All right, let's take one final short pause and come back and talk about our favorite baseball team right after this. Well, we're recording on Monday night. We watched this last week the Tigers sweep out the Astros. How sweet that was in Houston. And then they lost their first game to Cleveland, but then came back. We're recording on Monday, won it today in fine fashion. Kori Carpenter just went deep in the ninth inning, a big clutch 3-run homer. AJ Hinch continues to push all the right buttons, and Tarek Skubal, if they don't lock him up to a long-term, a deserved contract, they're nuts.
Yeah, Jared and I were saying it before we started recording that even though Tarek Skubal didn't get the win, the recorded win, you have to win the games that he starts. I mean, with the way pitching chaos, I know we all love it right now for the Tigers, but it's not sustainable long term. Right now, this is what we're going to go with. When Tarek Skubal starts, you have to win those games, and they did. Even he did his job, scoreless, 8 strikeouts. I mean, he did. He probably could have come out for the 8th inning, but like you said, it's hard to question Feder and Hinch, and all the job that they're doing, pushing the right buttons. One button, I mean, the dude that was the savior of the game, Kori Carpenter. Again, I'm not questioning AJ Hinch. I'm not an AJ Hinch hater. I feel Kori Carpenter, I don't care. I know Hinch is very analytical with the lefty versus righty matchups and all that. I'm putting Kori Carpenter in the lineup every day. I mean, the way that he's hitting the ball right now, and it worked out because they brought him in as a pinch hitter and obviously hit the game-winning home run in the 9th inning. But that would be one thing. When I saw he wasn't in the lineup, I was like, man, I don't care if it's lefty on lefty. He is hitting the ball so well right now. But yes, I mean, incredible game. I saw Kori Carpenter. Ted, you'll love this. The baseball historian that you are. Mm-hmm. First player. Well, actually, I'll make this a quiz.
Oh boy,
he's the first player to hit a 2-out, 2-strike, go-ahead home run in the 9th inning of a postseason game since who? 2 outs, 2 strikes, 9th inning go-ahead home run.
Either Bill Mazeroski or Joe Carter.
I'm gonna guess. Am I allowed to guess, or are we just giving it?
Sure, yeah, go ahead, guess.
I don't know if I'm gonna. I mean, honest to God, the only 9th inning home run I know from post is Maglio Ordonez, and I'm gonna guess that's maybe the tie you're going for. Go ahead.
It's so specific. 2 outs, 2 strikes, 9th inning. It's Kirk Gibson in the 1988 World Series. The famous.
Sure.
Right.
So it's just that's just kind of crazy, But no, AJ Hinch. He's. I mean, whenever they announce manager of the year, he's got to be up for it anyway. But no, it's amazing. Going back to Detroit, 1-1. I mean, they got home field advantage now. Two games in Detroit, and then game 5 if necessary in Cleveland.
Wednesday 3:05. Comerica and the surrounding area is going to be one big party. That's for sure.
I mean, employers downtown Detroit should just say, you're out of work at 2:00.
Right.
I'm with you, Matt. It's tough with Carpenter. It's tough to second guess AJ Hinch, and surely you would think next year Carpenter, that's probably gonna be something they work on all regular season, is going against righties, going against lefties, going against them both. But how awesome was that? Just you think of how demoralizing that must have been for the Guardians. You have Class A, who's just been untouchable all year. They're trying to make the case that he should have been the Cy Young.
Right.
Comes in 2 outs and just he gets carped. Very Carpentered. All-time home run. The Tigers needed that one. We were talking about a pre-pod, like you said, Matt. Whether Skubal gets the win or not, you need to win the Skubal games pretty much to give yourself any sort of chance, especially when you're down 0-1 and with how much of a dud that game number 1 was, 7-0 loss. Skubal is the all-time. He's the man. The way he gets fired up, it's like a football player. I mean, he's coming out the field, he's yelling, "Shut the F up."
Yeah.
For the Guardians fans, he's a once in a, not only for the skill level, which, I mean, we're setting our watch to this guy coming out and pitching 7 scoreless innings of postseason baseball in his first postseason ever. Like
Right.
what he's doing is mind-boggling, and it's like you're not even surprised. You're surprised if he gives up a run.
Yeah.
So just what he's been doing, it's awesome, and the way this team has really rallied. I mean, we talk about a team of destiny. Where are you guys at in a World Series bet? I know I should have probably placed that like 3 weeks ago, but my God, they truly seem like that team of destiny. Am I crazy?
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I kind of stay away from gambling, but I wouldn't go on the limb and say, yeah, book it, but I wouldn't bet against it, you know?
Right.
Because I saw someone coming in when they finally won the wild card. I forget what the odds were, but it was pretty low, obviously. But with the way they were playing, it was like, yeah, throw $10 down. Why not?
Right.
Because it'll turn into $5,000 or whatever the odds
Sure.
were. But no, I mean, it again, 2 games in Detroit, and it's back to back, Wednesday, Thursday. So if they can somehow win this series, you know, you're setting yourself up that Scooble's going to get another start if
Right.
it gets to game 5. So if you win game 2 or 3 and 4, cool, you've won the series.
And
now
you got him
Scooble-
starting the next series.
and then you've got him starting the next series. If it gets stretched to a game 5, great. He's going to
Yeah.
start game 5 in Cleveland. So
Right.
you're setting yourself up pretty good. The offense, you know, it sputters a lot. They'll get guys on and then Torkelson flies out, or, you know, they get guys on, grounded and double play. That's playoff baseball though. Sometimes, you know, bats tighten up, but it's fun to watch for sure.
It really is, you know, and then we've talked about it before. Their averages aren't eye-opening by any stretch of the imagination, but they come through, it seems like. I mean, Rogers, a big hit to start that 9th, and then what was it, the shortstop?
2
Yeah,
outs.
2-out rally.
2-out rally. Yeah, it's
Right.
incredible. It was one of the more
Against the best reliever in baseball. That's
Right.
Yes.
baseball.
That's
Right.
There's no explanation sometimes to how this stuff plays out. But I'm with
absolutely.
if you're the Tigers, you just got to be thinking we got to cannot. And I don't think it will. The crowd's gonna be so on fire. I wouldn't be surprised if the Tigers win the next 2 games. But no matter what, you got to at least win one. Obviously, you'll be eliminated, but you got to get Scooble. If you can get to Scooble, I don't care if it's at Cleveland, Scooble on the mound in an elimination game. I'm hammering the Tigers money line if that situation comes along. So just find a way to win one of these ball games at Comerica.
Amen. Go Tigers. This is so fun, you know. I mean, our Wolverines are down, but we got somebody else to watch, right? The Tigers.
Right.
I love it. You know, a couple other quickies. Just get into it. 3 deaths really of note. Pete Rose passed away at 83. There was a lot of scuttlebutt about Hall of Fame and blah blah blah. But
Well, what's your opinion? Go ahead. Not to cut you off.
My opinion, I don't see it now. I mean, if you weren't going to put him in while he's alive, what's the point of putting him in while he's dead? And the whole thing with steroids too, you know, I mean, I'm about done with the Hall of Fame about how it's political, you know, because you got to have the best players in there, right? But he did do the one thing that was the absolute cardinal sin that he couldn't do. But I guess the only hesitation I have about that is he didn't do it as a player. At least he wasn't caught as a player doing it.
You can't. I'm with you. If you put him in now, the Hall of Fame should be burned down. I hate the posthumously like inductions.
Yeah.
Get them in while they're alive, or don't even worry about it.
Right.
It makes me sick. He should have been in. I think we all agree on that.
Yeah.
It's a bummer, man. What a great life. I mean, he seems like he lived life to its fullest. You know,
he did.
And you know, Charlie Hustle. What more can you say, Matt? Matt, do you agree he should be in, or are you on the outs?
100%, because I'm 100% on the side. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, all these other guys, Mark McGwire, put them in there. If you want to talk about the history of baseball, you're leaving out some of the biggest names in the game. I mean, the most hits in the history of baseball, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. And it's also like, if you want to say at the time, I understand the ban. He did the latter half of his career. Really, I saw people say he spent more of his life apologizing for what he did than his actual like playing career. He did turn around, say he stayed, you know, like saying, I didn't do it. Or he kept saying, you know, like whatever, you know, that kind of attitude. Okay. We always talk about, you know, like forgiving people in sports, especially people will get arrested for whatever, and then they're signed onto another team like the next season, getting a second shot. You banned him, you know, everyone saw what he did. He did his time, if you want to say it that way. Put him in. most hits in the history of the game. Like, what do you? It's ridiculous.
Right.
For real.
And he's from my era. I saw him play. He was the real deal, man, no doubt. A couple other deaths to pass on: former Lions Hall of Fame linebacker and former coach Joe Schmidt from those '50s teams. He passed away at I think he was at 90. And Greg Landry, 77, passed away. He was one of those guys in my era watching Lions football that actually was a pretty good quarterback for the Lions in a time when they did not have good quarterbacks. So sad to see him go. Hey, I had one question, sports related, Matt, and then I got one real quick thing on entertainment. I know we're running long. Your duties last night, Pistons and Bucks, the exhibition game. Okay.
Yep.
So, sometimes we like to ask inside baseball. I think our listeners like to know what's going on. You tweeted a nice picture of your studio with the screens up there. Yep. What exactly do you do in a game like that? What are your duties?
So last night, I mean, there's a few different things that I do. Last night, I was doing, the name of the operating system is called Libero. It's if you ever see a game, whether it's football, basketball, on NBC, on ESPN, ABC, whatever network, Fox, and you see the fancy telestrations is what they're called, the rings, the arrows, the spotlights. When they come out of halftime or they come out of break. And you got the analyst, breaking down, and there's the arrows on the screen and all that stuff. That's what I was doing last night. I produce and edit those segments last night. Tim Legler was on the game, and he's a dude that loves that stuff.
Oh yeah.
It was a preseason game, so we weren't going too heavy with it, especially since a bunch of the starters didn't really play a whole lot in that game. But no, I love doing that stuff because you get to just really kind of break down. You can be a little creative too. Right. There's always storylines going into a game. So I get to talk to the analysts before the game, and they're like, watch out for this player, loves going on pick and rolls, or, let's see how Cade Cunningham does for the Pistons, getting open, stuff like that. So you kind of have some storylines going into the game, and then you just follow the game and you have fun with it.
Do you get a little extra hop in your step when it's one of our teams, the Pistons or whatever, even if it's an exhibition game?
A little bit. I mean, yeah, definitely. But NBA, you guys know, I love the NBA. When I get to do that stuff for NBA, it's fun. Even like WNBA, even though, people have their opinions about it, it's a fun sport to draw telestrations on because the analysts love it too. So yeah, that's fun. That's definitely one of those where it's like, man, this is my job. I get paid to do this. This is pretty cool.
Great stuff.
I was never good at that machine. I was terrible at it. So kudos to you for being able to do that on national games, because I freaking suck at it.
The craziest part about it that I always tell people, again, I know we're going a little long on this, but when I'm doing it live in a game, there's times I have to do these things in 2 minutes. Right. It'll be we go to a commercial break, and they're like, "Can you get that to us by the time we come out of commercial?" All right, let's see. I'll
no, that's so true. That's
see what I get. And it's like
hockey. We do that for hockey, and it's
hockey,
like you get a goal like 1 minute, like before the second intermission, you're like, "Oh God, I am screwed."
Yeah. Sometimes you tell them like, "I'll do something. It's not going to be too in depth. You're going to get an arrow and you're going to get a spot shadow." Whereas if you give me the whole halftime, where that's like 10, 15 minutes, I might be able to cut some guys out, and I might be able to do some other little things, move some guys around. But sometimes they're like, we need this after commercial break. It's like, all right, you're getting a spot shadow, you're getting an arrow, and
that's about it. Yeah.
But when you do that, then the talent has to step up and do their thing, right?
And then that's why they get paid the big bucks, because then they describe to the people at home what they're seeing. So
I love it. I love the inside.
I got one thing to just throw out real quick. Before we go to entertainment. So we got to talk about our Lions, even if it's for 2 seconds. They're on a bye week, obviously, this week.
Seattle.
Right. What about Seattle?
I mean, that was a great game. A great game to watch.
I've said it, and I'll go back to what I was going to say. We are officially back after that Seattle win. I mean, Jared Goff, perfect game. Freaking about impossible to do that in an NFL game. I honestly expect them to come back from this bye week and rattle off like 5-6 straight wins. I mean, starting with at the Cowboys, 425 next week, and then at Minnesota. I think they're going to win both those games and just propel themselves to the Lions we saw last year for the majority of the season. One thing that could derail it, I don't know if this is much of a rumor, if there's any truth to it. Injuries, yes. Devontae Adams, I want nothing to do with him. I know that the Lions are one of the teams thrown out in a potential Devontae Adams deal. I didn't like him from the receiver show. Kind of what we're seeing perpetuate this itself this year. Was what I saw on that show last year under different head coach. Do not make this deal. This is something that shakes up the entire locker room. I don't think Brad Holmes would. I don't need to lecture Brad Holmes, but maybe there is somewhere where he's thinking about it. Would Devontae Adams be happy here as honestly, arguably a wide receiver 3 behind Amon-Ra, behind Jameson Williams? I know people will say the big name. Maybe he's better than both those guys. I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so with where he's at right now in his career. Whatever you do not make that deal. Do you guys have any sort of feelings towards, hey, let's get this done? Maybe he can come in, help us win right away.
100%. 100% agree with you. You do not want to mess up that mentality in the locker room, no matter how good this guy is. And it's still debatable. And he's getting up there in age too.
Right.
But you don't need that attitude.
Nope. Yeah. Don't do it.
Yep.
So again, I'm not sure if it was really even out there, but I just, in case next week we come on to record and it's like, oh, we just signed Devontae Adams. I just want to throw my thoughts out on there. Do not, and we are all on the same page. Don't do it.
Yeah, we're all in agreement.
These next 2 games at Cowboys, at Minnesota, you can make a statement. You win those 2 games. Yeah, people are buying the Lions.
Hopefully they heal up for sure. Then the entertainment tonight thing I just got for you guys. Saturday Night Live. You know I'm a slappy, but their first two episodes were just killer. I think they're stepping up. It's the 50th anniversary season. I mean, their cold opens with, Maya Rudolph playing Kamala Harris and Jim Gaffigan playing Tim Walz. I mean, it's just classic. That was week 1 with Gene Smart as the host and Jelly Roll as the musical guest. And then last week, one of the funniest Saturday Night Lives I've seen in a long, long time with Nate Bargatze, and Coldplay was the guest. So they're off to a good start, boys. And it's good when they're putting clips on social media. The golf skit, did you see that?
Yeah.
Classic. Yeah,
did you see that, Jared? The golf one?
I didn't know where he's hitting the bird, right?
Right.
He keeps hitting the bird. He hits an eagle egg.
Yeah,
it was funny.
Nate Bargatze's hilarious. So yeah, if anyone didn't see those, go back and check that out.
Yeah,
his monologue is pretty good too.
Yep.
I'm surprised you weren't teeing up I thought this is where you're going with it, the new Saturday Night Live movie. It's called Saturday Night, but apparently it's about the 90 minutes before the premiere of Saturday Night Live in 1975. This seems like, I'm surprised you weren't there opening night, seeing this bag of popcorn or bag of Skittles, popcorn, frozen Coke. Like, this seems so up your alley. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned it yet.
I don't think it's out quite yet, is it?
Oh, okay. Then
and it's on my list to watch it for sure. I'm going to go to the movies to watch it. I hope it's not a dud like the Joker movie apparently is. I didn't really realize that was a musical until I saw Lady Gaga and Jimmy Kimmel. I go, really? A musical?
Doesn't come out till October 11th, but I'm with you. I've heard Joker 2 is like one of the worst movies maybe ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even Joaquin Phoenix said that.
Yeah. The first one with Joaquin Phoenix was pretty cool. It was kind of a musical. It wasn't full on musical, but yeah, this one not getting good reviews.
No.
I'm making my way. I'm making my way through Monsters, the Menendez brothers. I cannot highly recommend, or I can't recommend it highly enough.
Good.
I think we've got 2 or 3 episodes left, but man, it's good.
I just laid out all my shows we have to see. That's definitely one of the must sees for sure.
I will preface with they don't censor anything. So if you don't like, if you have a weak stomach, maybe this is
talking about the violence part.
Violence, the details of stuff that happens, not even just with the murders, but what happened to the boys growing up.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't like those kind of details and stuff like that, probably not your show. But
I may be watching it on my own. Then my wife can't handle that.
Yeah.
I got 2 kind of off the wall things real quick. So both are sports related, and I think you've actually shouted this show out before. College football final. That is my favorite Sunday morning tradition is watching that with my coffee. I freaking love that show. Joey Galloway, Dan Mullen, Matt Berry is the name of the head guy. Is that right? I just love that show. That's how a highlight show should be. It's a million games. They have a couple, segments where they'll kind of do some takes. But other than that, it's just like, let's see all these highlights of these damn games. Yep. I freaking love that show. And then one other thing real quick. So college football, we talked about it. Maybe it was, a month or 2 ago where the college football anthem of this year, it was like a Jelly Roll song. I was like, I don't know if I see it. It's not my favorite. Last year, it was the Post Malone song. But then I've started to hear this, this Lenny Kravitz, Fly, that they've been using for all these college football promos this year. I'm like, this song is awesome. Like, obviously we knew Lenny Kravitz would do that song. I'm like, perfectly used. But then I find out it's an entirely new song with Quavo and Lenny Kravitz on the track, basically a hip hop version of that song Fly. So one, have you guys heard these promos in this song? And two, how important, maybe it's just my weird brain, I love a good college football anthem. And that's what this song is basically done for the season. So
I'll give you a quick answer. I'm sure I've heard it, but it didn't click in my mind who it was and what it was. So I'll have to listen more closely.
No, music, it doesn't make or break a season or a series, but it's such a big thing. Like when the NBA Finals has a song that like just is a great soundtrack to, you know, a good NBA Finals, you know, you love watching those promos. But I've heard that song, but kind of the same as Ted. I don't know if it like really like clicked that was like a new version of that song.
And I just thought it was the old song, you know, the one from the 90s. But apparently it's this new remix, you know, Quavo, who knew, from Migos. So Ted, maybe their homework for this week is give that one a listen. Let us know how much you hate it next week, because I'm sure you will.
Okay, I'll get right on that. I love it when you give me homework. You really think I'm 100% retired, don't you?
Right.
All right, boys. I think we had a good podcast tonight. It's always fun getting together. We want to thank the good folks at Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. Their orthopedic walk-in clinic continues to be open Monday through Friday, 8 to noon. No appointment needed at all. You can get any details at memorialhealthcare.org. Also want to thank our partners, ALS of Michigan. You'll hear their spot coming up. AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook & Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, Success Group Mortgage and Servicing, and the Shiawassee County Fair. Want to thank our guest that joined us tonight, Coach Travis Long of the Ovid-Elsie Marauders. Our next game of the week will be St. John's at Hazlitt. St. John's 5-1. That's Friday night, the 11th. If you want to listen to the Ovid-Elsie game, you can tune in on WOES over there at Ovid-Elsie. And just one final thought, guys. It's a little sad day to me, even though the Tigers won today. Probably my last day on the pontoon this season. I think it's coming out tomorrow or the next day. So, you know, it ran all season, Jared. It ran good all season.
I was going to say, we never had that update that you had to pull it out and start tinkering with it. So that's a success.
All good, all good. All right. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Make sure you vote coming up in November, and thanks for listening.